Hello and welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us for tonight's meeting regarding the Baumgartner to Fenton phase of the Lower Meramec Tunnel. Tonight we're here to talk about the Meramec Bottom site, and we'll go ahead and just get started. So Spencer, if you could, please advance the slide. So just to start off with an agenda, just to make sure you know where we're going to structure, how we're going to structure the presentation tonight. First, we're going to start off with introductions of the project team. And to begin, I'll go ahead and introduce myself. My name is Saad Amir. I'm the I work in public affairs for MSD, and I'll be helping facilitate the conversation tonight. I'll go ahead and take the first couple of slides after that regarding the technology overview and the MSD overview, just to make sure we're all on the same page before we get into the project specifics. At that point, I'll hand it off to the project team, who will talk about the specifics of the project. And at the end of the presentation, we will open it up for questions if you have any. And so we'll go ahead and get started with the introductions now. We'll start with Spencer Miller.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Spencer Miller. I'm with SAK Construction. We are the contractor that'll be building this project.
And I'm Kevin Nelson with Black & Veatch. MSD hired us to help them manage the construction of this project. So that'll be the role that I'm serving as the construction manager.
And I'm John Deacon. I'm also with Black & Veatch. I'm working under Kevin, and I'll be the resident engineer for the site.
All right, thanks everybody. All right, so we'll go ahead and get started, and we'll start off with the technology overview, just to make sure we all know how to engage with us. At this point, you should realize that you're in what's called listen and view mode. And what that means is you can hear us and you can see us, but we cannot hear or see you. There are different ways to engage with us, and the main way we'd like you to use is if you are on a computer or a tablet, if you wiggle your mouse or tap on your screen, you'll see a Q&A button appear at the bottom of your screen. If you tap or click on that, you'll see a chat box appear, and you can go ahead and type in your questions there. Now, I did say that we will be opening it up to questions at the end of the presentation, but that does not mean that you have to wait until the end of the presentation to ask your question. At any point throughout the presentation, you can hit the Q&A button and type in your question. A couple of things about the Q&A box. First, everyone can see everyone else's questions. So if you see a question that you also want to have answered, you'll see a thumbs up button underneath the question. Tap on that, and that'll let us know more than one person wants that question answered. So we are here to talk about this specific project. And so just in the interest of everyone's time, we are not going to be answering questions live that don't have to do with this project. However, if you do have those questions about different departments or a different project, or if you have questions about your specific property, go ahead and type those into the Q&A box, and we will chat you privately to let you know that we have received your question, and that someone from the project team or the appropriate department will be reaching out to you after the meeting. So that's it for the technology overview. Just quickly moving into the overview of MSD. First and foremost, MSD is a government utility that was voted into existence by the people of St. Louis County and St. Louis City in 1954. We're governed by a 6-member board of trustees, 3 appointed by the mayor of the city of St. Louis and 3 appointed by the county executive of St. Louis County. We are 2 utilities in one. We are a wastewater utility and a stormwater utility. We service the entirety of the city and about 90% of the county. A couple of different facts about how the size of the district is. It just makes us the 4th largest sewer system in the entire country, which really drives the cost of our program. Just to highlight that wastewater and stormwater utilities, so those are 2 separate utilities that have 2 separate funds. So we can't use wastewater money for stormwater projects, and we can't use stormwater money for wastewater projects. What we're here to talk about tonight is the wastewater side of MSD. And with that, I'll go ahead and pass it over to Kevin Nelson to talk about the project specifics.
So the purpose of the project is the construction of a tunnel, and it's going to intercept the wastewater flows that were previously treated at the Fenton wastewater treatment facility. And it'll convey the flows to the district's Lower Meramec treatment facility that's located off of Telegraph Road and Fine Road in South County, right near where the Meramec and Mississippi rivers come together. The tunnel itself is 6.8 miles long. It starts at an existing shaft at the end of an existing tunnel on Baumgartner Road, just east of Lee May Ferry. and the tunnel ends at the Fenton wastewater treatment plant site. It's about 80 feet to 290 feet deep. And after the tunnel's excavated, it'll be lined with a 96-inch diameter pipe. And the pipe will be what conveys the flow to the Lower Meramec plant for treatment. At the Fenton plant, there'll be a large shaft excavated to remove the tunnel boring machine from underground, bring it up to the surface. So that shaft's about 33 feet in diameter, 140 feet deep. Along the alignment of the tunnel, there'll be 6 locations where either now or in the future, wastewater flows will be dropped into the tunnel to be conveyed to the Lower Meramec plant for treatment. And one of those sites is the Meramec Bottom site, located around 4675 Meramec Bottom Road. And that's the site that we're going to be discussing tonight.
All right, thank you, Kevin. All right, so the Meramec Bottom site, just a quick schedule. Towards the end of this year, we intend to make our presence there where we'll come in and we'll rock the site and set it up for work to begin. The first work that'll be done is there'll be a shaft that'll be drilled for the site. This shaft will be drilled from the surface down to the tunnel elevation, which is about 140, 150 feet down at this spot. And that'll be used to connect all the sewers and drop all of the sewage down into the tunnel to be able to flow down to the treatment plant. That'll be about January of next year. We'll be drilling. Following that, in the spring and summer, will be near surface work. So there'll be pipes put into the surface to tie everything together. And then finally, the ending of all the work that at this site will be tying the tunnel into the shaft that was drilled there. And that requires blasting to blast the rock from the tunnel over to the shaft. That'll happen about fall of next year. Once all the near surface work is done, there should be very little, if any, work or presence known at the surface. This site is being constructed for future expansion of the system up here. So an aerial view here, as you can see down the red kind of rectangle area is the location in the middle of the line there. I apologize for not zooming in further, but that is the site that we will be occupying there for this project. St. Louis County Parks actually owns this site. So the turquoise alignment there, that line, dotted line through there, that is the tunnel alignment. There's a pin that's about a 1/4 inch up away from that alignment. That's where the drop shaft will be drilled. Drill that drop shaft down to tunnel elevation, and then we will come in from the tunnel side and we will blast from the tunnel side over to the shaft itself. Here's an example of what that drill rig will look like when it's on site. This drill rig has about a 60-foot mast or so that you see there, and it'll drill all the way down into the tunnel elevation. Here's an example of the tunnel boring machine. This is one that just completed its work over on the Deer Creek job, which was in Shrewsbury all the way up to Clayton. This one was 22 feet in diameter. Our tunnel boring machine will be about 12, 13 foot in diameter. So same premise, just a little smaller. By this time, everybody on this call should have received a notification from Vibertech. They have been contracted to do all of our pre-construction inspections. They'll take 3 attempts to contact you. They'll mail you a letter, they will do a certified letter, and then they will drop one off at your door. They're waiting on you to contact them to set up a time to come inspect your house. They were hired, it is part of the St. Louis County and part of this project's specifications in order to have them do inspections before we come in to get the condition of your residence before we come in and do any construction. So to get an idea of what that looks like, the circle there is 500 feet on the radius of what's all encompassed for our job site there. If you fall within that 500 feet, that's who's been contacted. The methods they'll use is they will use a camera and video and audio. They will come through, they'll go room by room, wall by wall, interior and exterior. And they're looking they're documenting the current condition, everything good and bad. So you see small examples of a small crack in the foundation there, or a plaster missing or something. So they're documenting all of this, and then should anything occur during construction, there is a pre-construction, we can do a post and figure out what happened, if anything. So our blasting procedures, all of our blasts are designed by a licensed blasting engineer, all the way down to the 1/8 of an inch of how wide the drills are for drilling the holes, how deep they are, the poundage down to the pound of how much blast of powder explosives goes in, and then how it's all timed out, how the blast goes. It's not one big bang. This isn't Wile E. Coyote and Roadrunner. And then at this site as well, there will be no explosives on the surface. Everything will be put in from the Baumgartner site and brought down to this. So nobody here at this site will ever see explosives. You'll never be exposed to them. It's just, everything will be taken care of 150 feet underground. So that's our pre-blast warnings that will be given before the blasts go off. Blasting procedure, make sure everybody's clear of the site. We'll set up seismographs. So seismographs are set up at the closest inhabitable structure to the site. So even if you don't see one, know that there is one at a structure that is closer than you are, and the vibrations and sound will be louder and it'll be more prominent at those areas. So we put it there. So once seismographs are set up and good, we will initiate the shot. Once it's gone off, our blaster in charge will go check it, make sure it's all clear, begin mucking the material out and repeat. The shaft is about 50 feet or so from the tunnel alignment. Figure a shot's about 6 to 8 foot. So you can kind of do the math that it'll take probably 10 shots, 8 shots or so to get back to the shaft. Now we'll do some trim shots, square it up and everything. So be some smaller ones, but you're looking at like a month or 2 of blasting at this area. Here's an example of a portable seismograph. These are all calibrated, all the instrumentation, all the information that comes off these is combined with the blast report that MSD and Black & Veatch have. So these are all of our records down to the second of when the blast went off, and then when these were triggered to ensure that we stay all within our blasting limits. St. Louis County blasting regulations, as I said earlier, we place the seismograph at the nearest uncontrolled structure within 500 feet of the blast. Those are the limits there. St. Louis County blasting hours, which is where the site is in, is 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. And the blasting inspector, which is who my license is also with, is Mike Burkemper. So any issues or any questions or anything can be taken to Mike. I work with him a lot with this stuff. So we're happy to work with you and Mike on this if there's any questions. So we also do a blasting notification. So my email address is on the screen right there. And on days of blasts, we are happy to send out a notification for the approximate time for when a blast will be shot for a day. It's basically to give you a forewarning so you don't feel something or hear something, so you have an idea of what it is. We'll try to adhere to the time as best we can, but it may sway a little bit just because of dealing with Mother Nature and trying to give people notice and then still blasting the day. With that, here is MSD's, the contact site. So MSD's information is on the left. The site information, the first one is myself, Spencer. That is my email address and phone number. John Deacon's the on-site engineer with Black & Veatch. They work for MSD. So John works hand in hand with myself. That's his phone number and email. So that's on there as well. There's John right there. So if you have any questions, we're both there all the time and you can get a hold of us at any time. So with that, turn it back to Saad.
Thank you, Spencer. So that ends the informational part of the presentation. We're now going to leave it open to questions. So I'll give it a couple of seconds. Of course, if you have questions that you'd rather speak one-on-one with, and again, if you have questions about your specific property, the best people to talk to are up on the screen in Spencer and John. Just give it a couple more seconds. And you can email or call them to let them know. Email probably is better, I would think. All right, I'm not seeing any questions come in, so we're going to go ahead and call it a night. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. We hope some of your questions were able to be answered, and have a great rest of your evening.